Asterisk, why is it that a woman can spend decades by a man's side and still never truly know how deeply he once loved her? Not because he didn't care, not because the love was fake, but because he never said it out loud. His love lived in silence. Hidden not. Absent. What if the most profound kind of love isn't something you say, but something you feel in the quiet? What if it lingers in unspoken glances, in small, unnoticed acts, in the way he sees you when he thinks you're not watching? For some men, saying, "I love you," isn't just awkward. It's like trying to speak a language they were never taught. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, spoke of something called Archetype's deep psychological blueprints. One of the most dominant in many men is the warrior. This inner warrior is disciplined, fierce, and loyal, but he doesn't talk much about love. Not because he doesn't feel it, but because he's been wired to believe that emotions make him vulnerable, that speaking his heart is the same as exposing a weakness. So when he loves, he doesn't declare it. He defends it, quietly, without words. He won't write it in messages or whisper it into the night. But he'll show it in ways most people never even notice. Unless you know how to look, and that's where our story begins. This isn't the loud, cinematic kind of love. It's the silent kind, the protective kind, the one that doesn't shout but stays. If you've ever questioned whether a man truly cared, maybe it's not more words you need. Maybe it's a new way of seeing, because the first clue isn't in what he says. It's in how he looks at you. Sign 1, the quiet gaze it catches. You when you're not trying. When you're just sitting there laughing at something silly, lost in thought, fixing your hair in that messy knot you always do. There's nothing special about the moment. Nothing posed. And yet, when you look up, he's watching. Not in a way that demands your attention. Not with a spark of flirtation, but with a kind of stillness. A presence. As if he's trying to hold on to a moment. He knows he can't keep . It's not about performance. He's not trying to win you over. He's simply there watching, quietly, feeling something he can't quite name, and maybe doesn't even want. Jung believed the warrior archetype trains men to protect their hearts with silence, that they are raised to equate vulnerability with danger, so they don't speak love. They study it. From across the room, behind calm eyes, through subtle signs, because emotion, to them, can feel like a battlefield. They won't say what they feel. They rarely even show it. But their eyes, those quiet eyes, they betray what their armor hides. There's something rare about a man who's always in control, yet loses himself for a moment just watching you. That stillness in his eyes, that pause in his breath. Not casual, it's sacred. And when it happens, don't brush it off with a laugh or cover the moment with noise. Just stop. Let the quiet stretch. Let him feel safe in it. And when the silence is full and ready, meet his gaze, not with doubt, not with defense, but with calm acceptance. Let your eyes whisper, "It's okay. You can be real here." And maybe, just maybe, you'll ask something soft. Not to pry, not to corner, but to open a window. What's on your mind right now? He may hesitate. He might shrug and say, "I don't know." But if he's been watching you from a place of deep care, there's a chance he'll let a piece of his truth slip through. "You look so peaceful. I was just thinking how lucky I am." That single sentence, if allowed, can shift the air. Between you, it becomes a fragile bridge linking his hidden heart to your patient soul, connecting the part of him that's afraid to feel with the part of you that longs to be felt. This gaze doesn't shout. It doesn't sparkle with charm or demand a reaction. It simply stays, quietly insisting, "I'm here. I see you. I may not have the words yet, but I hope someday you'll understand what I've never said." Sometimes the truest, "I love you" doesn't pass through the mouth. It's spoken by the eyes. And if he looks at you like that, you're not just another face in the room. You're standing inside a space he rarely opens for anyone. But love like his doesn't end with a look. Not when words feel like unfamiliar tools in his hands. No, his love keeps going, shifting into movement, into gesture, into the rhythm of everyday care. Sign 2, love that moves in silence here. As a strange truth most people miss. While many women wait for those magical 3 words, some men are saying, I love you, 100 times a day, just not with their voice. They say it in how they move through your life, quietly, consistently, without asking for praise, that he checks your tires before a trip, picks up your favorite coffee without being asked, mentions something you forgot you even said, chooses the seat, facing the door, not out of habit, but because he wants to be the one watching out for you. These moments don't sparkle. They don't shout. But if you're paying attention, they echo, loudly. Why does he love like this? Jung would say it's the warrior within him. The one trained from boyhood to suppress softness, to hide feelings, to control his heart with the same discipline he brings to everything else. He's not careless, he's cautious. Not emotionless, just careful. So he doesn't speak love. He builds it, he repairs it, he makes space for it. And not because he's trying to impress you, but because something inside him tells him this is what real care looks like. This kind of love isn't written in verse. It's etched in rituals. If you read closely, you'll see the code, a private language of gestures, a pattern meant just for you. His love is a quiet preparation for storms you haven't yet noticed, like a tent already waiting before the rain begins. He won't announce it. He won't stand in the spotlight. But he'll be there, always there doing what needs to be done before you even know it needs doing. Asterisk, asterisk. This is where it deepens, where silent gestures turn into something far greater than routine. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. What if the daily things he does aren't just thoughtful habits, but glimpses into a deeper part of himself? The part he doesn't fully understand, but follows anyway. Each quiet act of care isn't just practical, it's the invisible breaking the surface. His instincts, guided by something wordless, pull him to show up for you. Again, and again. Love for him doesn't come wrapped in grand gestures or poetic confessions. It stays. It endures. It weaves itself into your mornings, into your evenings, into the unnoticed in-between. If you're the woman who sees the meaning in these moments, then you're no longer standing at the edge. You've already stepped into his world. You're not a visitor. You're the rhythm he's learned to move with. So when he tops off your water bottle without being asked, when your phone is charged before you wake, when at just making sure you got home safe, text arrives before you even think to send one, don't dismiss it. That isn't routine. That's his heart speaking in a language he's fluent in. For a man raised inside silence, the smallest effort is a loud confession. And if those efforts come unprompted, without a scorecard or spotlight, then you're not just loved. You've been chosen. But there's a love even deeper than quiet care. A love that lets itself be seen. Sign 3. He shows you his fragility. I don't know if I can really do this. The words land soft, ordinary, easy to miss. But if he only says them to you, if his voice dips just enough to reveal a tremble, then you've witnessed something rare. The armor shifted. And for a second, the warrior let you see the man beneath. Jung believed many men walk through life under the command of an unconscious warrior, trained to hold back, to provide, to carry the load without complaint. They're praised for being stoic, respected for their restraint, expected to bury fear where no one can find it. So when one of these men cracks open the door, even slightly, it isn't just vulnerability, it's trust. Quiet, sacred trust. If he says things like, "What if I fail?" Or, "I feel like I'm not myself lately," or even wonders aloud whether he's pushing you away, those aren't just confessions. They're invitations. He's asking if you'll stay without fixing, without judging. He's letting you in not to carry his burden, but to witness his humanity. And in that moment, your response becomes everything. You don't need perfect words. You don't need to rescue him. All he needs is to know that being unsure doesn't make him unworthy. That being afraid doesn't make him any less strong. That he's still himself, even when he isn't standing tall. Because for a man who's built a life around control, being seen in his weakness and still loved isn't just healing. It's transformational. It's the deepest kind of love he's capable of feeling. Asterisk, this is where love reveals its quiet depth, not in grand gestures, but in the moments when he lets your voice echo inside his own mind. When he says, "Your opinion matters," what he's really saying is, "You help shape the man I'm becoming." That's not about flattery. That's about trust. That's about taking off the mask and allowing you to touch the part of him he rarely shows anyone. Sometimes it won't be obvious. It might be hidden in the pause before he asks, "What do you think I should do?" Or tucked inside a quiet confession, "I'm not as sure of myself as I seem." These moments don't announce themselves. They slip by quickly, almost unnoticed, but they are windows. And if you pay attention, you'll realize he's not crumbling. He's opening. And that opening isn't weakness. It's courage, because for a man who's lived behind armor, every time he lets you see doubt, what he's really saying is, "I trust you more than I trust pretending." He may never speak the words, "I love you," in the way you've imagined, but when he says, "What you think matters," he's handing you a blueprint to his heart. In his world, love doesn't live in fireworks. It lives in the quiet places he's willing to share. The raw places. The real ones. And when he lets you see those hidden layers, his fears, his hesitations, the parts of him that feel unfinished, he's not just showing vulnerability. He's inviting you to build something with him. Something rooted not in words, but in mutual presence. And the more he trusts you with his inner world, the more he opens the door to it. Sign 4. He lets you into his private world. That's a kind of love that doesn't need to be spoken, because it lives in the spaces we guard most fiercely. It's the love that shows itself when he lets you step beyond the surface, when he allows you to see what others never do. Not the curated version, not the public self. The real one, the one with old records and favorite books. The one with half-finished drawings and forgotten dreams tucked into shelves. When he says, "Come in, it's okay," and doesn't just let you into his space, but into the rhythm of his solitude, he's saying something louder than any declaration could hold. He may never hold your hand in front of a crowd. He may never send romantic notes. But if he makes space for you in the places where he feels most like himself, that speaks volumes. It says, "This is who I am when no one's watching. And I choose for you to see it." Because for a man shaped by restraint, by privacy, by control, the truest act of love might not be in saying the words. It might be in letting you see him when the door is finally closed. Asterisk for a man shaped by the quiet discipline of the inner warrior, intimacy doesn't always arrive through words. Sometimes it shows itself in what he lets you see. Not just the outer world he presents to others, but the inner corners he usually keeps hidden. His rituals, his silence, the small things that carry weight in his private life. Maybe it's a drawer full of old photographs he finally shows you, or a favorite sweatshirt he lets you wear, one that still carries the scent of his space. Maybe he invites you into the room where he works, or plays you a playlist he's never shared with anyone before. From the outside, it might look like nothing, but to him, it's sacred. Because for a man who struggles to say, I love you, letting you into the rhythm of his world is the declaration. You might not notice it right away. It may seem casual, kind, even but not particularly meaningful. And suddenly, something subtle shifts. It could be a quiet night, a simple conversation. And in the middle of that stillness, he says something soft like, no one else has been in here, just you. No ceremony, no build-up, just a sentence that lands deep. And in that moment, you understand. He's not showing you a place. He's showing you a piece of his soul. And not just offering you entry. He's asking you to stay. Because when a man lets you into the world, he hides from everyone else. He's saying, you see the real me, and I trust you not to run. And once that kind of trust is planted, something even more powerful begins to bloom. He doesn't just open the door to his present. He starts making space for you in his future. Sign 5. He starts weaving you into what's ahead. There's a kind of phrase that slips under the radar. Not, I love you. Not, I miss you. It's quieter than that. Less obvious. Something like, we should go to Italy someday. It sounds simple, casual, almost like a joke. But if you pause, if you really listen, you'll hear what's underneath. He's not just talking about a trip. He's painting a picture of the road ahead, and you're in the frame. For men who aren't fluent in vulnerability, the safest place to store emotion is tomorrow. So instead of saying, I want a life with you, he says, imagine if we had a little house near the water. Instead of confessing, I'm afraid of losing you, he says, maybe when we're older, we'll leave the city behind. These aren't just passing comments. They're coded messages. Because every time he brings you into a vision of what's next, he's letting you know, when I look ahead, I don't see myself alone. But here's where it gets lost. Many women hear these words and brush them off. They smile politely, but inside they wonder, why hasn't he said how he feels? Why hasn't he defined what we are? And in doing so, they miss the quiet truth. While they wait for the grand declaration, he's already drawing a map. And on that map, she's not a stop along the way. She's the destination. This is how a guarded man loves. Not with loud declarations, not with sweeping gestures, but through glimpses, small, forward-facing moments where he places you quietly into the life he hasn't lived yet. He won't say, I can't live without you. Instead, he'll wonder aloud, we should try that little cafe next time. Or, one day, I want to take you back to where I grew up. To the untrained ear, it sounds casual. But beneath those passing words lies a quiet truth. He's building a future, and you're already standing in it. He leaves behind emotional breadcrumbs. Not for show, not for approval, but because his heart doesn't know how to speak loudly, so it speaks softly, through dreams and plans. If your name keeps showing up in his some days, in his what-ifs and down the roads, then you haven't just touched his heart. You've taken root in his vision. Most people miss it. They wait for grand gestures, for the moment he finally says what he feels. But sometimes, love isn't loud. It hides in the corners of possibility. And when a man can't say, I love you, he might instead ask, you'll be there with me then, right? It's not just a question, it's his quiet way of asking. For forever. And here lies the deepest secret. Love doesn't always arrive in the present. Sometimes it's planted in future soil, where it grows slowly, tenderly, without a name. If you're there, always there, in the stories he hasn't told yet, he's already said everything. So maybe you've sat beside a man for years and never quite realized the depth of his love, not because it wasn't real, but because he didn't have the words you were waiting for. Maybe his love didn't show up as declarations. Maybe it showed up when he handed you a piece of his private world, a piece no one else was ever allowed to see. We crave certainty. We want the words, the clarity, the confession. But for a man raised in silence, molded by strength, the hardest thing he'll ever do is reveal what he feels. To love, for him, isn't to say it, it's to lay down the armor, and when he trusts you, when he no longer sees you as a threat, but as a shelter, something extraordinary happens. Without ceremony, without words, he gives you something sacred. The shield, the defense he's carried his whole life. And in that surrender, without speaking, he's telling you, keep this. I don't need to protect myself when I'm with you. Carl Jung once said, love begins at the point where we are no longer afraid of being hurt. So if he lets you see the parts of himself that are still unfinished, the dreams that haven't taken shape, the fears that still linger, the thoughts he never dared to share, and if he looks at you without the mask, with softness instead of steel, then maybe, just maybe, you're the one he's been waiting to stop being afraid with. And that kind of love, it doesn't need words at all. Asterisk.